All right, welcome back, you guys, to another episode of Geekoning. I'm your host, Ernest, for today, and today we have our friends here at Hippo Havoc joining us with the conversation. First of all, thank you guys for interviewing or having this conversation with us. Do you mind doing a little brief introduction?
Yeah, sure. I can start. So I'm Kyle. I'm one of the programmers on the Hippo Havoc team. I also do some sound effects as well.
I'm Doug. I'm one of the programmers from the Hippo Havoc team as well. That's pretty much all I do, but there's a lot of programming that needs to be done.
I am TJ. I am a designer and also sometimes a programmer on the Hippo Havoc team. Lots of programming, like Doug said.
I'm Ashley. Shockingly, I'm not a programmer. I'm actually our team's artist. Along with TJ, I also work a little bit on the UI of the game.
All right, awesome. Well, first and foremost, could you give us a little description of what exactly disaster golf is, and just kind of would you be okay with explaining what disaster golf is to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So disaster golf is a really unique take on the mini golf genre, and the objective is to complete the courses as fast as you can. So disaster golf doesn't focus on stroke counts. Instead, to cater to that speed running, chaotic aspect of it, we focus on par times. And also, instead of clubs, you use natural disasters to put the ball across the green. So those could be like meteors, black holes, and geysers. Really cool stuff.
And to kind of further or kind of get to know, what really inspired you guys to make disaster golf? What was your inspirations? Where'd you guys get that idea from?
So disaster golf, it kind of came out of a prototyping class that we had. We all went to Bradley University together. Mm-hmm. And so one of the prototyping classes we had junior year, we just made a bunch of game prototypes, and one of those was the original disaster golf prototype. And I was on the team that made that, and the original idea for it just kind of came out of the idea of making a golf game, but instead of actually controlling the ball by like hitting it with a club or anything like that, you would control the world around the ball, so like the weather, stuff like that. That was the original idea. It kind of evolved over time and got a little bit more ridiculous with like the meteors and black holes and everything. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Got it. And throughout the process of you guys making disaster golf, what have been some major challenges or lessons that you've learned along the way of developing a game like this?
Yeah, so challenges are things like scope creep. We had many ideas that we wanted to create, particularly actually both during and after school. Things like level editor was in discussion and got into very early stages before we realized, oh, that is so much harder than we thought it would be. Or like various elements of, like during development, we tried a golf roguelike instead of a speedrunning game. That didn't work, but that added scope, and trying to keep that under control was definitely one of the more challenging things with this.
Yeah, we'd been kind of prototyping a lot of the different worlds we might do, especially at the start of our capstone. I think we had at least 6 ideas that were thrown out at some point for possible worlds we could have done. I think our initial goal had been like 3 or something, and that got shrunk down very significantly as we realized how long the actual process was going to take.
Yes, we had a lot more levels planned than we ended up with.
So Ashley, this question is actually specific for you. So you mentioned that you do the UI of the game, correct?
Yes, though a lot of it ended up being developed by our capstone team, which was under kind of a different UI team. But I've been kind of contributing to the things moving forward past capstone.
And so in terms of the UI aspect of a video game, what have been some things that you've learned about that whole process as compared to maybe UI in a different field?
I can jump in if you want to, Ashley, as well.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of UI work as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think UI for games is a little bit different because you really have, I guess it's not different than a lot of other things, but you really have an idea of where you want the player to go, right? Like even looking at your main menu, like where do you want the player to go first? Obviously, we want them to play the game first. So we have that right at the top, right in the middle. Just small things like that, learning about how the player's eyes will move on the screen, like where you want them to be looking at various times, how big you want different elements to be. A lot of that is it's very trial and error. It can be hard to get it right the first time. You kind of gotta get a lot of feedback and iterate on it, which that's a lot of game design stuff, really. But the UI especially, it's very hard to get it right the first time. So I think that's one of the biggest things is just iterating on it, really.
It's very much a balance, especially when it comes to your actual in-game interface for actually playing. So we've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out where's the best places to put elements, but also what's the best size to have them. For the longest time, we had a little video that would show up, kind of showing you what each disaster looked like, and that would be basically permanently on. And at some point, we realized, you know what? For experienced players, this is getting quite annoying to have the entire corner of your screen get blocked out. And we figured that we probably should finally tackle that, and stuff like that makes a big difference. It's really little tweaks that can have really good impacts to your game.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And then this is for the programming guys. I wanted to ask you, what has been some major differences that you've seen between programming for games, whereas if you're going to program for something else, what have been some differences that you've seen, and what kind of challenges does game programming entail compared to maybe different fields as well?
I could go first.
Yeah.
So I've mainly done game development programming compared to more traditional object-oriented programming for like software applications. And one of the big things that I noticed is that typically, at least in Unity, which is what Disaster Golf uses, you're working with a lot of components that are attached to like physical or virtual really objects in the engine compared to creating everything programmatically. Like you don't need to program in a new cube to display on the screen. You just click a button and it's in the editor, and then you can add a bunch of code to that game object through components. And that whole workflow of getting the component and adding them to the actual game objects and trying to manage like the coupling between everything, I feel is quite different from more traditional software development.
Kind of building off of that, with Unity in particular, there's like the different scenes, and each scene is kind of like its own self-contained bubble, which with a game you have a whole lot more of those that you need to keep things and keep data flowing between than you would in a standard like Windows application, in that you have a common backend most of the time that you can just have forever. In Unity, you can do that, but it's not going to be as good, and there's other limitations with going between your distinct bubbles that are your different scenes.
Yeah, well, that's actually really interesting to hear. I actually didn't know that there was actually that much work there was actually a lot of work that had to go into the game development aspect. Kind of going back to Disaster Golf, what are some of the goals that you have for this game moving forward?
So I think one big thing that we'd like to, and I think I could speak for all of us when I say this, is we really want to just get some sort of community out there, no matter how small it is. I just really want to see some sort of audience be really interested in the game. They're like competing against each other on the leaderboard for times. We're also going to have a speedrun.com page, so it would be great to get people actively contributing to that and get some like official placements on the site. So really, that's the biggest thing for me, just that sense of community.
Yeah. Do any of you guys want to chime in, or is that basically what you guys are kind of on the same page with that?
Yeah, it's really the community, and then actually seeing people enjoying the thing you've created. That's the biggest sense of validation you get for anything you create, is actually seeing people interacting with it and really enjoying it.
Got it. Well, then, could you let our listeners know how they can support you guys and support your future endeavors with Disaster Golf, or any games that you are planning to release in the future?
Yeah. So probably the main thing right now you can do to help support us is just to wishlist the game on Steam. We also have a free live demo out right now that you can go and play and give some feedback. Also, just by sharing the game with your friends, talking about it, and also make sure to follow us on our socials, Hippo Havoc team on Twitter, and our publisher Vox Pop as well. They post a lot about our game on all their platforms.
We also have a community Discord server that I would highly recommend joining. You'll get any notifications about new projects we work on, disaster golf stuff. So if you're interested in that, definitely join up.
Yep, and you can find the link to that on our Steam page, which you should visit again.
We'll make sure to include all the links down below. But I completely forgot to ask you guys this one last question. But if you had to give any advice to any aspiring game creators, what would that advice be?
Honestly, you just need to start making things. It seems really daunting, but honestly, the internet has really great resources. Like YouTube's a really good resource, like forums on Unity or whatever engine you're using. There's really good resources out there. You kind of just need to start making things. Just throw your ideas out there, see what sticks, and then kind of in the process, learn what you enjoy by seeing what games you play, seeing what mechanics you enjoy. Maybe you're an artist, so you want to look at kind of specific art styles, what really inspires you, and your kind of goal is to make something that you yourself would enjoy playing if you were just a casual player of it.
Yeah, and just jumping off what she's saying, you don't have to finish every project you start. I think that's one thing that you can get trapped in really easily. The idea that, oh, I started this, so I can't start anything else until I finish it. No, it's especially when you're learning, it's about that experience of making things for the first time and figuring them out and then carrying that forward to the next project.
Got it. Well, thank you guys again so much for your time and taking the time to speak to us about disaster golf and Hippo Havoc as well as a whole. And that concludes the episode. Make sure to check out the links down below. We just want to thank you again for tuning in for another episode of Geekoning, and we'll see you next time on the next episode. Thank you again.
Looking for something fun to do? Check out I Married a Monster in a Hill, a comic, upcoming visual novel, and animation, all about couples and couple dynamics. It's totally cute. Check it out!